Arizona Republican Congressman Andy Biggs. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee. You just heard the numbers from Nate Foy there, Congressman. 6,800 immigrants have been bused to Washington, D.C., 360 to New York City, and the mayors of those towns are crying foul. Meantime, you've had 2 million illegal immigrants cross the border in Arizona and Texas just this fiscal year, or we're on our way to that number. That doesn't include last year. Your response?
Well, I can't believe I'm hearing these people cry xenophobia and that type of thing, when the reality is, in a single day along the southern border, we get more people coming in than they have had in the last several months. Those are big cities. I have cities that are small towns, very few services, and they're getting the influx and feeling the brunt of this. It's outrageous, quite frankly. And what they should be doing is they should be calling on President Biden to close the border and make it secure, instead of blaming other people for their inability to provide services that we have to provide for in Arizona and Texas, California, and New Mexico. Yeah,
they're asking the Biden administration for help in dealing with some hundreds or, a few thousand immigrants in Arizona and Texas. You've had millions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know what, John, when we start talking about those millions, we're not talking about the known gotaways, and we're also not talking about the unknown gotaways. And when you get the people then who are getting away, we caught a few sex offenders recently, but you've got sex offenders, murderers, violent criminals, members of gangs. You've got people who are on the terrorist watch list. And we're not even talking about the drugs that are pouring across the border and the inhumanity toward the people who are actually coming across the border. So this is a humanitarian disaster, and they're worried about their big cities, and we're worried about the country as a whole, and particularly those of us in the states that are along the borders that are bearing the brunt of this.
Meantime, Arizona's governor, I understand, is trying to seal some of the gaps in the border wall by putting big shipping containers, those 40-foot-long shipping containers there where the wall was supposed to be built, and topping it with razor wire. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, he's taken the bull by the horns. It needs to happen. He's only going to be able to do 1,100 feet right now, and that's just going to be in this one particular area. And if you go, John, if you go down just further south from there, just a couple miles, you're going to have wide open area where literally hundreds and sometimes thousands a day come through. So it's still going to be a problem. It's going to help direct the flow of these illegal crossers. But the reality is the Biden administration has got to do more to help solve this border crisis.
Well, they do not seem inclined to do anything. The president hasn't visited the border yet, and his vice president, who is supposed to be in charge of it all, doesn't seem to be doing much of anything either. Let's turn our attention to the other big story of the week, the raid on the former president's home in Mar-a-Lago. You wrote this on Town Hall. In raiding Trump's home at Mar-a-Lago, the Biden administration has just crossed the Rubicon. Sicking the state police on former President Donald J. Trump is only the latest attempt by the radicals on Biden's team to continue its objective of preventing the great disruptor from interrupting their goals of a collectivist America. You think this was all political?
Absolutely, I do. And it's consistent with everything from the time he came down the golden escalator in Trump Tower. I mean, we've seen the Steele dossier. We've seen fixed and perjured affidavits to get FISA warrants against Carter Page, who worked for President Trump. We've seen a couple of impeachments, which is unprecedented. We've seen a whole host of string upon string upon string. You've got the Mueller investigation, which proved that there was no Russian hoax. If there was any Russian collusion, turns out it was with Hillary Clinton. So you get this whole massive gung-ho, over-the-top sicking of the agents against President Trump. And why? I mean, what could it be? The reality is it's consistently been debunked. They lose every time. They've been wrong on everything, and I suspect they're going to be wrong here as well. And I think it's politically motivated, John.
Well, again, we may find more information about what they seized from the former president's home and that could answer a lot of questions. Congressman Andy Biggs, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Thanks, John.